So go ahead, from 8 to 14.
Okay, from ages 8 until 14, I was in and out of 24 hospitals and like 10 to 12 residential placements. After the subacute placement, I went home. I looked in the mirror and I realized I was a big girl now. I spoke to people at a local church and wanted to try another place, a Baptist church, instead of Jehovah's Witness. I spoke to the pastor's wife. She said, "You need to find a way out." It was Sunday, and my aunt said, "Get up, you're going to the Kingdom Hall." I said, "No, I'm not." She went to swing her cane at me. I said, "No more." She said, "Let go of my cane." I said, "You need to stop hitting me." My sister came in and tried to protect my aunt. I pushed her into a wall, and I said, "You need to stay out of it." I knew my strength at that point. I saw the fear in my aunt's eyes. She realized she couldn't continue to abuse me. "I'm going to leave, and then I will call the cops, and you'll leave, and you're not coming back." I was in so much pain, I packed my stuff up. I walked into the emergency room. I had bruises from the past week's beatings. I said my eye was busted open. My aunt busted my eye open with a belt buckle. I had told her it was from sports. She indicated that if I told them, my aunt, it would make it even more difficult for me. Another time, my aunt made me ignore pain from when I fell off a bike. I had broken my leg in 3 places. She said don't do anything about it, and it was okay. I had just sprained it. And she said, "Just go to bed." By the morning, it was swollen, and I had broken bones sticking out. She had taken me to the hospital and kept asking her. She had to take me to the hospital. I kept asking her, and she finally did. The CHOP ER staff said these were serious allegations and suggested they look into the file to see the history of any injuries. They did, and they examined me. My asthma was acting up. I was 15. The DHS worker came, but this time it was different. She came with a police officer and one of the leaders of DHS. They come in for more complicated cases. I explained what I did to the nurse. You guys have come out so many times, but you never did anything about it. My mom has been abusing me for years. Fighting was the way I dealt with it. Harming myself was the way I dealt with it. It was the way I coped because I didn't know how to cope with it. The DHS worker seemed to sympathize with me. She said, "We need to meet with your aunt, and you won't be present." They put me back in the hospital. I went back to Epi. I stayed there for about a year. I was 16 years old. We had a meeting and DHS requested my aunt sign over her rights. They found that the abuse had been taking place for a long time. I overheard the conversation, and they said I would need intense therapy to help me get through something like this. They felt I should be in a residential facility, so I went to Keystone Community Resources in Scranton until I graduated high school. I felt scared. I was nervous about what to expect. During the time I was in the hospital, I would have night terrors about everything that happened to me. In addition to the rape,
That's another story.
a cousin had molested me when I was 5 or 6. My aunt told me it didn't happen. She said, well, this is...
You can leave that out.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is she, so I'm looking at some of the things that you talked about. Being bold, determination, patience, mindset, a positive mindset. Something within you had you really reach out, not only reach out, but also advocate for yourself. I mean, when we talk about others advocating, what do you hear in your story? What do you note and remember about that in terms of what it took in you to be able to?
I just remember the night before we got into it, is she had beat me pretty bad. And I just got up the next morning, my body was just hurting. And I was like, I thought about cutting that morning, but I was like, you know something? I talked to the lady at church. She told me, get out. So I'm going to get out of this. And then my aunt had been starving me for 3 days, so I was hungry. And I was just like, I don't know where to go. I don't have any friends. So I was like, you know something? I'm going to take this walk to the hospital. I lived at 41st and Lighty. So I walked to CHOP. I told myself that morning, this has to end now. Because if it doesn't end, I don't know where I'm going to be at. And, going to church helped me. It strengthened me because the way I was looking at God before, it was just like, why are you putting me through this? Let me go. Let me die. I've been cutting myself for years. Let me go. Let me cut the right artery. Let me take the right pill so I can go. And he wouldn't let me go. And the way the pastor explained it to me was like, you are here for a reason. God is not going to forsake you. He's not going to let you go. He's going to be by your side. You just have to have the strength to get up and speak for yourself. You have to have the strength to try to do for yourself. So that was the day I said, I'm going to CHOP and I'm going to make these people see what's going on. And when they look back into all those records and they see all the things that had happened to me, they were like, how, the one nurse was like, how do we overlook this? How do people just sit here and write these children off? I heard her in the hallway talking. She was like, how do they write these children off? How do they do this? And, that's when I really it was like I was filled with hope that things would get better. Though I had already been torn down so badly, I was hoping and praying that I would be able to build myself back up mentally, physically, emotionally.
So I think a few more words from the two of you about that inner resilience and what you know from the literature and so on. And then I would like to give you time to talk about the anchors in your life. And I mean, I'm here representing others, her pastor, other friends. Any comments that you guys would like to make, or others?
So Janita, I want to clarify, if the other hospitals you had been to were not CHOP, right?
No.
So
CHOP was where I went for when I had the physical injuries.
Mm-hmm. And the last time when you walked to CHOP, did you go to CHOP the last time?
CHOP was my last. That was the hospital I went to get. They did a thorough examination of me, my body, and everything. And then when DHS was like, we have to put her somewhere until we can figure out what's going on. And there was a hospital. Was there on what's that? It's close to you, Epi.
Yeah.
Epi was open.
Henry
yeah.
Avenue.
They put me at Epi and they kept me there, and that's where they did the mental evaluation and all that stuff.
I think sitting here as adults now, and we listen to Janita's story. Sitting here as adults, and we listen to Janita's story, for those of us that we all work with kids, it's so hard to hear, and we never think that it could be this bad. We always want to think, it's a bad day, the child's just not feeling well, nobody would ever harm a kid like this. We just don't go there. And I think that as people that work with children, we have to ask a lot of questions and we have to be really observant. Because if we do, we know when something doesn't smell right. And even though it hurts us to have to do that extra push, we really have to, because we're mandated reporters. I call parents when I'm suspicious, and I will tell them, I want you to know what I'm thinking and what I'm going to do about it. I want you to know that it's coming from me. So when DHS comes to your door, know that these are the reasons why I sent. I've had people scream at me, threaten to kill me, yell at me, and my feeling is, and I tell them, I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. But if I'm right, I can't take responsibility. I can't look myself in the face and think, well, I didn't want to make waves, so I didn't do anything. And I think that there are a lot of really bright kids like Janita that hide, that they're smart enough to be able to get angry, they're smart enough to be able to blame others, they're smart enough to be able to be quiet. And I think that my takeaway when I listen is, what do we do as adults to listen better and to not be afraid? Kids will scream, and I've had kids look at me in sheer terror and say to me, if you call my parents, they're going to beat me. They're going to beat me. And I've spent lots of time with kids explaining how, as adults, Our role is to protect them. And sometimes we might worry about what we don't know, but the outcome's going to be better. And we're going to do the best that we can. So I think that in just listening to what you said, Janita, like it empowers us. And even though it's really hard, it's hard for you to say, it's hard for us to listen and to believe that as adults, we could let this happen. And I think we get scared. You know, there's that fear of if we tell, what's going to happen to you? Like, will your life be totally upended? Will you go from one horrible foster home to another horrible foster home? Like, we can't control it because you're not coming home with me. So I think that we really have to, and we never do it alone. That's another thing. Like, when I've called DHS, which has been lots of times in my career, I'll tell the school nurse. I'll let other people in the building know. I'll sit down with the principal and we'll sit down with the kid. We'll find out who are the protected family members. So you don't have to do it alone. You know, you wrap yourself, just like we try to wrap Janita, we wrap ourselves with enough support that we're strong enough to do it.